Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Kathy Durfee. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
You are very welcome. I'm excited about our conversation, but I will first of all start with your bio. So you are the CEO and founder of TechHouse, and you began on a full ride PhD path in organic chemistry.
Yes.
Shifted to poetry.
Yes.
And then into programming through a consulting firm that trains scientists like you.
Yes.
Which is incredible. So Renaissance woman, it's everything, right?
I mean, a little, you could say jack of all trades also if you want to.
We can say that, but I think the Renaissance woman sounds much better. So when your first child was born with health challenges, your employer wouldn't allow remote work. You chose to leave and build something better. That's how TechHouse began. And today your team works with over 300 small businesses across the US, offering strategy, tech consulting, and support, always tailored to how each business works and what each one needs to succeed.
Yes, perfect. That's us.
Yes, that's you. And I can also say that you are very much mission-driven, very caring, very, we can talk for hours. It's like very easy to communicate to. And we met at the NABO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, a yearly conference. It was actually the 50th anniversary of NABO in Washington, D.C. And we sat next to each other and we started talking, and I go, wow, I definitely need to have you here as a guest on the podcast, because I know you have so much to share with other entrepreneurs in terms of inspiring them, how you built your business, but also in terms of helping them with the tech and with that aspect. So let's start with your journey. So tell us a little bit more about, I mentioned how TechHouse it got started. So how was it in the beginning? What did you do in order to grow it, and where are you at today?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thanks for having me. And that was a great summary of how I got started. And as evidenced by the summary, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, I would say I did not become an entrepreneur because I had studied business or I came from a line of entrepreneurs or any of that, right? There was something that occurred in my life that triggered the need to have money, and entrepreneurialism was the way for me to meet that need. And I would say the first 10 years of my business were pretty much that. I am from a background where not everyone thinks women should work outside the home. And if you do work outside the home, I remember when I was in 8th grade, my father, there were a lot of kids in my family growing up. So it was always a special moment if you got to take a night walk with my dad when he would walk the dog one-on-one. That one-on-one time was pretty rare, and he worked a lot of hours. And he took me on a walk one time because he said, your mother and I have been talking and you're very bright. And so before you get married, you might find yourself working. We thought, what might that be? And we think you would be a great executive assistant. So because you're very smart, and that would be a way for you to apply your skill. And so, when your brain is in one place on what's possible and what's a good goal, sometimes it can be hard to shift. You don't even realize your brain's in that place, right? And it can be hard to shift. So when I started the company, thinking about what it was and what I could be and what I was, I think a lot of it was focused on the family would benefit from more money. How can I make that happen? Kids weren't doing well in the school, so I wanted to move them to a different school, but it was outside our current budget. So I grew the business so we could afford the tuition at the new school. There's things like that I would say drove the growth for the first probably 15 years, really.
Yeah.
Being in CEO groups, sometimes I would feel a little bit out of step. There was a lot of people who were focused on build fast and exit. but that just wasn't where I was at. I did get an offer. Well, I'll just share two more quick stories on the growth part. One is I was probably about maybe 10 years in or so, and I thought, what in heaven's name am I doing? This is nuts. I don't know what I'm doing. Payroll is hard to make all the time. Like, we made it. I've never missed a payroll in 30 years, but that doesn't mean it was easy to make payroll. So just, it was so hard. And the kids were upstairs getting ready for school, and I sat down on the stairs, and my husband was in the kitchen gathering some stuff up. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to shut this business down today. I'm just done. I've had it. I don't know why I thought I'm a business person. I'm a chemist out of work. No, I can't do this. And he's like, Kath, let's just talk about it at lunch, because we had planned to go to lunch, which we would never go out to lunch, but he set up this lunch date. And I'm like, no, I can't wait for lunch. I'm going to go into work this morning and just tell them, I'm sorry, I'm shutting it down. I've arranged for severance for everybody. And just to know, at that time, I had multiple family members that worked for me. I had friends of the family that worked for me. So there's a lot of impact on this decision. He's like, Kath, just wait. I said, I just can't do it. I don't know why. This isn't me. I'm not a businessman. I'm clearly not a businessman. So what am I doing? And he said, look, Kath. And the kids run past, they're filling up their backpacks now at the kitchen table. He's like, look, Kath, I'll never forget his expression. This is it. That lunch we're going to today, you're winning one of the 40 under 40 awards. So can you just accept the award and then shut down the business? Because I already told them we're coming. So can we just do that? And I was like, I won an award as a business person? Me? And that's what kept me going for like another 5 or 10 years, that, oh, wait, I could be a business person, but you don't even realize what's stopping you until maybe a door opens and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that door was closed, and maybe I had closed it. Who knows? Or a lot of factors. So, so I would say that was a big part of the journey. That, wanting to pay for things for the kids was a big part of the journey and growth. And then the third, I'd say, big step that I can think of just top of mind in the growth or journey was when the kids were off on their own. And I said to my husband, wow, now I can see what I can do with this thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's just been the past few years, and that's been an absolute blast. I love it so much. If you'd asked me 30 years ago, would I want to be a business person? Would I want to be an entrepreneur? Would I want to own a business? I'd be like, no. But now I love it, and I'm grateful to be able to do it.
That is amazing. So what do you like most about being a business owner and an entrepreneur?
There's so many things. Top of mind, I would say there are principles, missions, values, I'm not sure the right word to use, that are really important to me. I would like the world to be better when I leave than when I got here, as much as I possibly can. And when you have your own business, you can try and help make that happen. You just have more opportunity to try to learn in the process. You can learn a whole lot about how to, what is better and how to help make better. And then you have more resources to try and make that happen. So I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. It is very cool. So in terms of TechHouse, tell us about the services that you provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll first say the customers that we work with are small businesses straight up. We categorize our customers from size because they tend to have common challenges and needs based on certain size groups. And companies that are micro businesses are from 1 to 10 employees, there's 3 subgroups we have in there that have certain needs. And then what we consider small mid-market, from about 10 or 20 people up to 300 or so. They have a different set of needs, but that's the area where we work, are those customers. And what we help with is we have 2 brands. We have one brand called Safety Plus and one called Empower My Data. And Empower My Data helps customers sort of digitize, refine, automate. There's some overlap we talked about before. There's a little bit of overlap between what we do, but trying to help the customers' processes be sufficiently consistent and friction-free so they can do what they need to do. And sometimes it just helps to have an objective observer.
That's right. That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
I benefit from that as well. Safety Plus is once you get things digitized, they need to be secure, and Safety Plus helps secure them.
That's great. So let's talk about the processes. You know, we're all about process documentation and creating playbooks, and you add to it in terms of digitizing it and making sure that the tech is correct. So what is your approach to processes? Like, let's say you go into a company and you want to look at their processes. What do you look at?
I'll start out and say the way we look at, we call it the blueprint, the way we tackle anything we go after, and that's using our blueprint. And the first step in our blueprint is a diagnostic. In our business, it's not uncommon. There's sort of a layman's level of understanding of things that may or may not be a real understanding of the underlying problem to fix. So the very first thing we want to do is try and identify what are symptoms and what are root causes that are causing whatever challenge the person's encountering. So everybody on our team, regardless of their job, is trained in creative problem solving, so that it's part of our DNA. When we meet in our quarterly team meetings, we're using that process ourselves. And we use it with our customers in the beginning to try and understand what is the root, what is the actual pain, who's it affecting, who's accountable for addressing it, and what are some options to go through that. And identifying, is the pain that's in place just where the cure would be more problematic than enduring, or is there a tweak or even a fundamental shift? So that's our first step. Once we get through identifying that root cause of whatever the challenge is, and sometimes the challenge is just a lack of more positive, right? We want more growth than current growth. You may not even feel like pain, but it's still a goal we want to accomplish. Then after that, what we do is we do design. And so we try to map the gap, identify this is where we are. This is a visual of where we'd like to be. What would it take to get from A to B? What kind of shifts or levers can we move to make that happen? And then when we've identified that gap, then we can try and design a smoother process, a cleaner process, sometimes simply document the current process. It's an education and communication to transfer knowledge about an efficient process or a sufficiently efficient process. In small business, we firmly believe, we're really not looking for perfection. We're looking for healthy viability that helps us meet our goals.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And then how do you incorporate technology into it?
Great question. So as we're going through the design stage, there may be places where technology could facilitate the execution of the process. There might be ways where technology could give better visibility to the process itself, like, the world. So the first one would be automating processes, or having AI be able to summarize some of what's happening or take actions with agents. If we want increased visibility, we might be developing dashboards, and those dashboards might read in data from multiple areas. We have found that based on which segment they are in the growth cycle and whether they're trying to be stronger as is or they're trying to scale, there are some really common scenarios that people run into, and a combination of process definition, education, and then also automation or technology. I want to just say one more quick thing, which is because of AI, there is the potential for, people use the phrase democratization of everything, business, of technology, of all these different things. And that brings with it a pull towards a more transparent organization. And a more transparent organization could pull towards a flatter organization. And those transitions from silos of knowledge to transparency, from hierarchical task assignment to organizing what can feel like a chaos of flat activities, those things technology can help facilitate. Of course, leadership and all these other things are really important, but I do think technology can also help facilitate some of that.
Absolutely. So give an example, for instance, of something that technology, like a situation where technology can facilitate a change that occurs in an organization.
Okay, one that I'll say to one that we've worked on with a customer recent. There are a lot, so sometimes it's hard to pick, but I'm going to choose one that was recent that we've done, and I'm going to speak to a prospect that we talked to recently that I think a lot of people are feeling their pressure. So one that we did recently is a company that was just a few employees, I think 4 or 5 employees when we started working with them. And one of their employees is very, very good at communicating the value of their company to upper mid-market organizations, which is great, which means when they win a customer, they win a lot of work. And so how can you scale that without, just increasing your labor commensurate with the customer base? So what we did is what they were doing is they collect data, and without going in, proprietary stuff, but they collect data from multiple sources, third-party applications, whatever. They collect it in classic micro small business. They had a lot of spreadsheets.
Yes.
They had a lot of spreadsheets capturing a lot of data. And so what we did is we automated the capture of almost all that data. Some of the systems declined, they still had to start with Excel, but some didn't. And we have to do this on a small business budget, but we were able to capture the data from a lot of the sources. And then we were able to aggregate. And for those of you familiar with terms like data warehouse or analytics or things like that, those are some sort of the concepts of some of what we did, and relational data stores and such, and reporting. They're able to aggregate it. And then we created a data store for them, and that data store doubles as a CRM. So now they know more about their customers with a 360 view than they did before, and this data has been gathered and aggregated. So as they're adding customers, they're not adding staff. That they did recently add another person in business development, but
But that is the right place to add it, as opposed to having because it's not like we're not going to have people anymore, right? So it's adding the people in the right places to actually improve and scale the business. That's very important. That's a great example. Do you have another? You said you're going to share another one.
Yeah, I think this one's kind of interesting. So this person had 15 employees, and there's a book that talks about the chasm. I think it's more marketing focused, but how difficult it is to go from 5 employees to 12 or 13. That transition. We call it teams in transition, that stage. But this person, they had 15 employees and they just dropped down to 7. And they were struggling, right? They kept adding people to scale, and then they'd have to reduce their business size again. And then they add people to scale. So I think this is the second or third time that they've reduced back down to that 5, 6, 7 number. And they asked us, how could we help do some of this? And part of the problem was that the person we're speaking to is a founder expert. And the expertise that person has is required in a couple places in the process. So even though they would add people, they were still constrained by this person's ability to get information to those individuals. So because AI is so accessible now, and AI is a great aggregator of information as long as there is sufficient human review, this is a great example where we could have an AI model. I'm going to use the term learn very loosely. Learn what the founder knows that's being made available to the other people, so that as we go through the process, there are points in the process that when he scales, then instead of him inserting himself in the process, we're inserting this little AI brain that has these parts of his knowledge, so we can get past those hurdles and move forward. So now he'll be able to scale more effectively. We're also doing other automation, kind of similar to the first, where we're moving away from a lot of manual data scraping, capture, analysis, and having some of that be automated as well. But leveraging that AI bot-ish thing that's informed by his knowledge, I think is pretty powerful and could help a lot of organizations. I just want to add one more quick thought on that.
Yeah, of course.
I've heard, I was even at a conference recently talking to fellow IT organizations like ours about AI, and some people will say there isn't a need for your entry-level jobs anymore because AI will do the entry level. And so the question that begs is, well, where's my pipeline for talent? If I don't have entry-level people on my team, then who am I hiring into my level 200 that's going to get my culture and just how does that work? And I believe that these bots are so powerful for small business because we now can have an entry-level person empowered by highly experienced knowledge coming through the bot or agent or whatever. And now that employee is empowered, and they can rapidly acquire the skill that took them much longer to acquire in the past, and move up to that 200, but we still have entry level forward. And I believe that's so great for each one of us. And that also means many more people will be able to start and succeed with small business than before.
That's a very optimistic view, and I agree. I mean, and that's definitely the way to look at it. It's not like, oh, now things are going to get eliminated. They're going to change, but we have to adapt to that change and make the change work for us. That's for sure.
I think jobs will definitely be eliminated, and we can take that opportunity to create a bunch of small businesses that are very powerful and effective and competitive.
I agree. So you mean like eliminate it somewhere else, like in big corporations,
Yes.
and then people are going to come and work for smaller businesses?
Yes. Yes.
That's a very good way of looking at it, and a very great opportunity in order for expansion, because you're going to get high quality people.
Right.
That
Exactly.
And if you have your business systematized with a lot of processes and understood, and the knowledge gathered and the knowledge extracted, then you can train the new employees that are going to come over.
Exactly. And now you have this talent, this beautiful talent on your team, augmented with that AI. It's like, yeah, holiday. Beautiful.
Absolutely. Incredible. Absolutely. Kathy, this is a great conversation. So if people want to hear more about you, learn more about you, and get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So I am on LinkedIn, if that's your sort of messaging place of choice. So my handle, I guess, is Kathy Durfee. So kind of easy to find. And our website, though, is tech-house.com. There's a dash between the tech and the house. So but that's our website, tech-house.com. But I would love to, speak with anybody about what you're trying to get done, share stories, and if we can work with you and be of help, that's great. And if not, that's great too.
Awesome. Well, Kathy, it's been a pleasure having you on this podcast. Great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.